Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us at the 2021 annual meeting. My name is Mark Conti. I'm the Executive Director for the Capital Crossroads and Discovery Special Improvement Districts. I'd like to start by thanking the Sonesta Columbus Downtown Hotel and Juan Lahina, the General Manager, for helping make this meeting possible today. We have three things to do today. The Ohio Revised Code requires us to hold an annual meeting in November to elect trustees. After that, we want to recognize some outstanding contributions to downtown. And last but not least, Commander Smith Weir from the Columbus Division of Police will speak on the transformation of policing in Columbus. This meeting is made possible by financial support from Ohio Custodial Management and Ohio Support Services, companies that provide janitorial and security services to downtown properties. The meeting is also made possible by support from Buildston Landscape Service. They provided the centerpieces on your table, and you're free to take those once the meeting's over. The two special improvement districts are funded by $2.8 million in assessments on private properties, but assessments paid by property owners leverage about $1 million from other sources. They include government property owners who are exempt but contribute to general operations, support from grant funders, and I'll touch more on these in a moment, and voluntary memberships from many tenants and property owners who pay extra to support SID services. The SIDs are also staffed by a remarkable group of people. The staff are shared by the two districts so that we can keep administrative expenses as low as possible and use more of those resources out on the street. The staff include Jack Lowe, the former Columbus City Forester who works with us seasonally and oversees landscaping efforts. Pearl Market Manager Sam Sharkey, who successfully managed the Pearl Market in what were the two most difficult market years we've probably ever seen. Mark Klingler, who does an outstanding job with downtown CPAS outreach and who has become the go-to on everything related to public restrooms. Michelle Chippis, whose promotional and engagement work connects property owners and tenants to the work of the SIDs. Casey Brandkamp, who manages downtown CPAS and assists with our clean and safe efforts. And Lisa Diefendiefer, our Deputy Director. She is celebrating her 20th year with the SIDs. Yeah. And with everything that went on this last year, she became even more creative in solving downtown's problems. In addition, the SIDs are fortunate to have two homeless outreach specialists on our team. Bill Coben and Ryan Jefferson have engaged hundreds of people out on the street this year and have moved nearly 250 into temporary shelter or permanent housing. Finally, our 25 fabulous ambassadors, with support of special duty police officers, feel a strong sense of ownership of downtown and take great pride in their work under the direction of Ben Barker, the operations manager. Give them a round of applause. As I'm sure you all know, downtown continues to face challenges from the ancillary impacts of the COVID pandemic. Many downtown companies have delayed plans to have workers return to the office. Downtown restaurants continue to struggle, and we see more people in need out on the street. With these challenges, the SID staff and ambassadors have been down here every day, dedicated to making downtown Columbus clean and safe. Organizations like ours are uniquely suited to bring people together to solve problems. This is clear with a number of collaborations over the last year. We developed and executed a Welcome Back Downtown campaign that was very well received. This wouldn't have been possible without cash support from the City of Columbus, the Columbus Downtown Development Corporation, and CODA, along with in-kind support from Experience Columbus. Late last year, the City of Columbus provided funds that allowed the two SIDs to distribute $10,000 grants to small businesses in trouble. Within 4 weeks of the initial phone call from the city, the SIDs were able to distribute grants to more than 98 downtown businesses. We also continue to promote other governmental grant and loan programs to help those small businesses. Concerned after 3 people died on the street last winter, Lisa Diefendiefer worked with Downtown Partners to get warming centers set up at Broad Street United Methodist Church, Trinity Episcopal Church, First Congregational Church, and the main library. She was able to secure donations from the Community Shelter Board, the City of Columbus, Franklin County, and the Columbus Downtown Development Corporation to ensure these warming centers opened last winter and continue this winter. Many people before the pandemic had a hard time finding a public restroom, and then when the pandemic hit, that became even more difficult as more places closed their doors to the public. This meant streets and alleys became de facto restrooms, and it was creating a mess and an additional public health threat. Thanks to the United Way of Central Ohio, Franklin County, Adam Board, and the City of Columbus, the CID deployed portable restrooms to ensure easily accessible restrooms were in place in high-need areas during the pandemic. The city then granted the Capital Crossroads CID $875,000 to install permanent public restrooms in some high-need areas of downtown. This type of amenity is standard in global cities and becoming more common in cities across the country. Finally, our city attorney's office has been actively engaged with the CIDs and downtown property owners and have been working to address nuisance properties, most notably the Greyhound station. Looking ahead to the next year, the CIDs will continue to focus on safety with additional use of special duty officers and reliance on help from social service agencies as an alternative to enforcement. We will continue to advocate to the city and others for additional resources. The new permanent public restrooms will be installed in the third quarter of 2022. We plan on continuing to promote downtown businesses and amenities as more people return to the office. And we also plan to restart discussion of creative placemaking to help fill in the gaps in the public realm and give downtown a better sense of place. The CIDs continue to be a resource available to property owners and address downtown's challenges. Next is the official business. The two CIDs have wonderful board members who have provided a great deal of guidance over the last year. The Capital Crossroads board is led by Tyler Steele of the Huntington Center. I'm not sure where Tyler's at. Thank you. And will the other Crossroads board members in attendance raise their hands? Thank you. The Discovery CID board is led by Carl Brown, who's over here. And will the other Discovery CID board members also raise your hands? Okay. As board members serve 3-year terms, about a third of the board is up each year. The following owners were nominated to the board of Capital Crossroads. Chris Matusik with Nationwide, Marcy Grime with Lifestyle Communities, Mark Stonebreaker with Capital Square Limited, Doyle Roush with Voorhees, and Juan Lajina with the Sonesta Hotel. All those in favor of this slate of candidates say aye. All opposed say nay. The ayes have it, and this slate is adopted. Thank you. The following owners were nominated to the board of the Discovery CID. Carl Brown with Franklin University, Ralph Smithers Jr. with Encova, Jeffrey Mormon with Vera on Broad, Joe Henderson with Ridge Street Lofts, Don Mateig with 545 East Town Street LLC, and Matt Loving with NJ Loving Apartments. All those in favor of this slate of candidates say aye. All opposed say nay. The ayes have it, and the slate is adopted. Please join me in congratulating all our new and returning board members. That concludes our official business. It's now my pleasure to recognize the individuals and organizations that have made an impact in downtown in the last year. Could the two board chairs come to the stage and help with the awards? Thanks. Each year, we recognize outstanding aesthetic contributions. These are completed projects that add to the street life, energy, and beauty to downtown. Nominees this year include Schottenstein Property Group, Crawford Hoying, the Tomco Companies, Mad Lab, Huntington Center, Borer, and Franklin University. Our first recipient is Connect Real Estate for the Gates Apartments. This project features 37 micro apartments and over 6,400 square feet of street-level retail space. The project brought back to life 4 buildings that were underutilized for more than 20 years to help create a more vibrant neighborhood. It received $1.3 million in historic preservation tax credits, along with support from the city's Housing Works program, an initiative designed to encourage affordable housing close to job centers. Here to accept the award are Aaron Price, Commercial Property Manager, and Brand Annan, Construction Project Manager. Thank you. Our second recipient is the Washington Gladden Social Justice Park for its new sculpture, Our Single Garment of Destiny. The sculpture was unveiled at the park on Martin Luther King Day earlier this year. Its name comes from words the late civil rights leader wrote in Letter from Birmingham Jail, published in 1963. The paragraph featuring the sculpture's name reads in part, "Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. We are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny. Whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly." Artist Julie and Adriana Voss Andre, a husband and wife, made the sculpture so that when the piece is viewed from a certain angle, it almost disappears because of its construction using thin vertical plates. The First Congregational Church at Broad in Cleveland, in the heart of the Discovery District, is the park's sponsor, reflecting its commitment to social justice as a principle of its faith. Reverend Emily Krause-Korzine and Tom Worley are here to accept the award. Thank you. There are many people and organizations whose service makes a significant contribution to downtown. Nominees this year include Commander Smith Weir, who you'll hear from later, Reverend Dick Burnett, Broad Street United Methodist Church, but we would like to recognize Todd Bemis. Todd retired earlier this year from Kappa. He was the Vice President of Operations, overseeing all aspects of operation for the 9 theaters in Central Ohio under Kappa's ownership and management. Todd also served on the Capitol Crossroads SID board for 20 years. He was a project manager for the recent renovation of the Palace Theater. The 95-year-old theater is on the National Register of Historic Places. The renovations included a main hall makeover, including the repair of damaged plaster, new paint and a new color scheme, new and refurbished seating, and installation of a new LED house lighting system. In total, Todd cared for the Palace Theater for more than 40 years. Todd is unable to make it today, so here to accept the award on his behalf is Jason Gay from Kappa. We got more. We would also like to recognize the Columbus Coalition for the Homeless for the warming centers. During the height of the pandemic, the coalition stepped up to fill a critical service gap in the downtown by coordinating and staffing warming centers last winter at Broad Street United Methodist Church, Trinity Episcopal, First Congregational, and the main library. These warming centers provided a safe and warm place where individuals living on the street could receive support and get connected to services. The centers served 243 people and were visited nearly 2,300 times. Had the warming centers not been in place, more people would have likely died on our downtown streets. The coalition is again operating the warming centers this season. The organization has been an excellent SID partner and service provider. We are grateful for their work in the community. Please join me in thanking Keith McCormish and Josh Poston of the Columbus Coalition for the Homeless and tonight's Outstanding Service Award recipients. Our next category is Outstanding Achievement. Our nominees include Columbus Symphony Orchestra for the 21 season of Picnic with the Pops, and the Columbus Downtown Development Corporation for getting the fountains working again at Bicentennial Park. Yeah, that was great. First, we would like to recognize, First, we'd like to recognize Freedom a la Carte, the nonprofit organization that employs and empowers survivors of sex trafficking and exploitation, renovated a building at 123 East Spring Street into a cafe, bakery, and catering operation. Freedom a la Carte, which is celebrating its 10th anniversary this year, empowers survivors of sex trafficking and exploitation to build lives of freedom and self-sufficiency. The organization believes that giving a woman practical job skills and developing a strong work ethic is vital to creating a pathway to freedom. Through its new downtown location, Freedom a la carte has created a safe place of restoration where survivors can heal, learn, and grow as they prepare for sustainable employment and reintegrate into the community. Here to accept the award is Paula Haynes, Executive Director of Freedom a la carte. Second, we recognize Industry Columbus Apartments and Charles Street Partners. Industry Columbus, completed in 2020, offers 236 apartments, a parking garage, and 4,400 square feet of commercial space for restaurant or retail tenants. Amenities include a dog park, rooftop pool, and hot tub, as well as a full floor of co-working space, which I'd like to have the hot tub near the co-working space. That's good. The site, which had been a parking lot, marks a major milestone on downtown's Long Street corridor between 4th and Grand. With the other developments on Long Street, a once barren stretch of downtown has turned into a bustling neighborhood. Thanks to the great work of Denver-based Charles Street Partners, the area has transformed into a walkable urban neighborhood. Here to accept the award is Justin Daisy and Ben Ammon from Industry Columbus. Are they here? Yes. Next, we honor unsung heroes, people whose quiet and unrecognized efforts benefit downtown. Nominees this year include Carl Roberts with Franklin County Emergency Management and Homeland Security, the Open Shelter, Dr. Jim Ford, who is constantly livening up his windows with painted murals, Rebecca Deeds, who's been a wonderful partner with the City of Columbus. She's a neighborhood program specialist, helping us solve additional problems in downtown. Our recipient this year is Heidi Carr, Assistant City Attorney with the Columbus City Attorney's Office. As part of the Zone Initiative team, Heidi works with the CIDS to address neighborhood safety and public nuisance issues downtown. This year, Heidi took legal action against problem businesses and properties downtown that were impacting the quality of life. The businesses included the Greyhound bus terminal and 3 clubs, the Avalon, the Pelican Room, and the Forum. Thanks to her work, criminal activity has greatly declined in the areas in which these businesses operate. She has been with the City Attorney's Office since 2015 and is a passionate advocate and supporter of the downtown community. And here to accept the award is Heidi Carr. We would also like to recognize those who make outstanding neighborhood commitments. One of the nominees was Discovery District Civic Association for their work in operating the summer movie series and the holiday trolley hop, which the trolley hop is happening again this year, coming up in December. Our recipient this year, though, is State Auto for their annual Christmas Corner. 90 years ago, State Auto began decorating its then 2-story headquarters at the corner of East Broad and Washington for the holidays. From a rooftop Santa town with thousands of lights and hundreds of trees to the current display, which today includes a life-size nativity scene, State Auto's Christmas Corner is recognized around the world for its beauty and attention to artistic and historic detail. Throughout the year, the company honors the holidays and traditions of many faiths with its associates, from Diwali celebrations to observances of Hanukkah and Yom Kippur. The insurer's founder, Bob Pine, began the Christmas Corner tradition in 1931, calling it a gift to the community. State Auto has continued the tradition of this simple, heartfelt gesture in the spirit of Pine's original intent to spread a bit of good cheer to the people of Columbus. And here to accept the award on behalf of State Auto is Stephanie Meredith. see it in your eyes.
Okay.
A healthy and vibrant downtown does not happen by accident. It happens because dedicated people invest their time, talent, and resources. Your CID ambassadors are a big part of our success, and we would like to honor 2 of them. The ambassador of the year for Capital Crossroads is Johnny Boykins, and the ambassador of the year for Discovery CID is Kevin Van Manen. Johnny came to work for Ohio Custodial Management in April of 2004. He worked for many years at the Continental Center as a daytime porter for OCM. In April of 2021, Johnny faced a hard decision to transfer from the type of work and environment he had come to know over so many years to work at Capital Crossroads CID as a cleaning ambassador. Through this transformation, Johnny has been able to utilize his full skill set, which also includes his background in criminal justice. While Johnny is hard at work fulfilling his clean team responsibilities, he is acutely employing his observation and reporting skills to ensure he keeps his team aware of the various activities occurring downtown. Even though he is camouflaged as a cleaner, Johnny is also able to increase his value by fulfilling an extra set of eyes and ears on the streets. Johnny is the embodiment of an ambassador, and his positivity radiates in everything he does. And Kevin, he's been a safety ambassador for over 2 years and has served in many different roles during his time with the CID. He is observant, studies his surroundings, and picks up on the minor details that change from day to day. Kevin referees football and umpires in baseball for several youth organizations. It is his keen observation and understanding of the rules and regulations in youth sports that intertwines with his vocation to fulfill his duties in this operation. In his words, Kevin shows up to work every day, no matter what, because his team counts on him. He can always be counted on to observe and report all that he sees while he is on duty, and this is one ref who for sure sees everything. Thank you again, Johnny and Kevin, and really the entire ambassador team. I'll now turn the meeting over to Lisa Diefendiefer, Deputy Director of Operations and Advocacy, to introduce our keynote speaker.
Thank you, Mark. Good evening. I'm grateful to have the opportunity to introduce this evening's keynote speaker, Commander Smith Weir. After graduating from Ohio University with a degree in sociology and criminology, Commander Weir joined the Division of Police in 1999. As a patrol officer, he worked in South Linden and served on the Violent Crime Impact Team. In 2011, he was promoted to sergeant and was assigned to work in the North Linden neighborhood and later for the Community Response Team. In 2015, Smith was promoted to lieutenant and oversaw third shift patrol operations for zones 1 and 2, the north and southeast areas of Columbus. And in January, pay attention to the date here, January 2020, he was promoted to commander and was assigned to patrol operations in Zone 5, which encompasses downtown and the Near East Side. I got introduced to Commander Weir by then Deputy Chief Mike Woods shortly after Smith's promotion. Woods wanted to make certain he was aware of the CID Safety and Homeless Outreach Program and our working relationship with the Division of Police. Little did we know that 4 months after that introductory meeting, that downtown would be turned upside down. Commander Weir was one of my consistent go-tos for information related to the protests. He continues to provide regular communication and collaborates with us to address issues downtown. I was and continue to be grateful for his support and his service to our downtown community. Please join me in welcoming Commander Smith Weir to the podium for this evening's presentation.
Thank you, Lisa. Good evening. Thank you to Mark Conte, Lisa Diefendiefer, and the Capital Crossroads and Discovery Special Improvement District for the opportunity to join you this evening. On an evening when we celebrate the successes and the trials of the previous year, I would like to recognize the tremendous work that these special people put in and day out to make this organization and the downtown community flourish. Over the past 2 years of working with the CID, I can definitively say that no organization has done more to keep downtown thriving than the CID during these tumultuous times. I know I speak for the Division of Police when I say that we share your determination, we admire your passion, we value our partnership with your organization. Thank you to all who have contributed to this special group, and especially those that helped me accomplish my job, and more importantly, those that have worked to make the City of Columbus a better place to live and work. I've heard a lot over the past 18 months about policing in Columbus and in the nation overall. Everyone has an opinion, and certainly when it comes to matters of public safety, everyone should have an opinion. While there are many historical precedents that have shaped modern policing, some positive and unfortunately some negative, Sir Robert Peel created the Metropolitan Police Department in London and is often considered one of the founders of modern-day policing. Peel's principles of policing still resonate today, nearly 200 years later. Policing has historically taken on many forms, from the night watchmen of the colonial era to the slave patrols of the South, the forces used to break up labor strikes in the North. We've had private security, we've had political machines, and everything in between. The 20th century, though, brought a push for the professionalization of policing. From Vollmer and Wilson, police departments sought better educated, highly motivated, better trained officers to police their cities. Certainly the success that was met with mixed results, often depending on the jurisdiction and the region in which they worked. Over the past 50 years, the City of Columbus grew and expanded from a mid-sized to a large city, challenging the capabilities of a division of police to grow and police that city of a larger nature. That being said, the division enjoyed an excellent reputation within the police community. Growing up in Northeast Ohio, when I met officers from that region, from the city of Cleveland, from other suburban agencies, whenever I said I wanted to become a police officer, many of them said, if you want to be a big city cop, go down to Columbus. As far back as the 90s, when I was growing up in that area, Columbus enjoyed that reputation in the community, in Northeast Ohio. And I know from all over in the past 20 years, talking to different police officers around the country, we enjoyed a very good reputation. So while we got talked about within the police community in glowing terms, we were accredited at the highest levels for a large police department, and our policies and procedures were used as best practices in the field. That is not to say that we did not have our problems. Samuel Walker, in his book, The Police in America, an Introduction, argued the movement to professionalize police departments created departments that were inward-looking and isolated from the public. And I'd say that that's a fair description of what our department became. We were a very policy-oriented division of police. And let me be clear, strong policies are a must. But we have to marry that policy to leadership, to training, our core values, and our practices. But over the past couple weeks, while I've been trying to prepare this, I've been thinking a lot about Peel's principles and what is old is new and what's new is old. And one principle that Peel talked about specifically sticks out to me. And that's principle number 2, to recognize always that the power of the police to fulfill their functions and duties is dependent on public approval of their existence, their actions and behavior, and on their ability to secure and maintain public respect. And to me, that really hit home, because we can say what best policies are, we can say what we should do, but if the public has changed their mind on what is acceptable practice, then we have to adapt to that. In my opinion, we lost that respect from the general public over the course of the past several years. We were telling the public what our policies were, what our best practices were, without listening. And what we forgot was that best practices are perishable. What a best practice is today will not be the best practice tomorrow. We have to be a learning organization that continues to grow and improve. And maybe that's why we didn't see or hear 2020 coming.
Police officer arrested in George Floyd's death is now facing several charges this morning, including third-degree murder and second-degree manslaughter. Many people believe the charges against Chauvin don't go far enough.
It was a peaceful start to the protests that began yesterday. Many gathering early last night for what that would appear to be a peaceful demonstration. Hundreds rallying to protest police brutality after the death of George Floyd. They were carrying signs and chanting for justice. But hours later, as police tried to get that crowd to leave, things took a destructive turn.
Right here at the Ohio Theater, the iconic theater saw significant damage. Now, we heard from Kappa and the Ohio Theater. They saw about $15,000 worth of damage.
All in response to police brutality. In the short north, their demonstrations damaged several banks as police had to use tear gas to get control of the situation.
So much, well, dozens of downtown businesses saw a lot of damage during destructive protests last night. NBC4's Danielle Grossman found a business owner earlier this morning walking up to his storefront for the first time.
Cody Warren owns 2 Men in a Vacuum here in 4th and State.
And it's a mess, as you can see.
With the financial impacts of COVID-19 becoming all too real, he says the timing couldn't have been worse for not only him, but his fellow business owners, too.
I understand their motive, but to turn it into, breaking just random businesses' windows, and it's just, I can't wrap my head around it.
A Capital Crossroads and Discovery District survey after the summer of 2020 estimated that downtown businesses sustained approximately $2.8 million worth of property damage, with an additional $2.1 million in loss of revenue. From the conversations over the past year that I've had with business owners throughout downtown, I can guarantee that those costs continue to mount. I was asked recently to name my greatest failure during my career. Without hesitation, it is the handling of the protests in 2020. You can tell me all the reasons why anyone would have failed, why we couldn't predict what would have happened. I've heard unprecedented, unforeseeable. When I close my eyes at night, when I watch that video, I can still see hundreds of people rushing from the bus stop at the McKinley statue to the State House. 10 minutes later, when I'm at High and State, I can still hear the smashing of the glass and the whoosh of the fire and turn and see the Ohio Theater ticket booth go up in flames. That first weekend that summer will forever be with me, as I'm sure it will be with a lot of you. The dynamics of downtown were already changing. We'd been seeing an increase in residential properties in and around downtown for several years, along with a fairly successful commercial market. The pandemic changed the landscape. There was a marked increase in the homeless population downtown and in the surrounding neighborhoods. During the pandemic, that increase in customers was also coupled with a diminished capacity for services due to mitigation policies put in place, not only by social service agencies, but by government agencies. Columbus Division of Police had a mitigation where we reduced staffing to reduce contacts and potentially reduce the spread of COVID. The Franklin County Jail reduced policies of taking intake of slating arrestees. All those factors combined to create a perfect storm. On top of that, we implemented a policy, like many agencies in many cities throughout the country, that prioritized summons in lieu of arrest for nonviolent misdemeanors. The rollout and implementation of that policy was handled poorly from our leadership, including myself, and both our officers and the community had a strong adverse reaction to that. The downtown district is the area of the town that policy would hit the hardest and have the biggest impact on the quality of life. The obstacles and the adversity that we were facing were significant. As an agency, we struggled with the response, and we have to acknowledge that. We can point to those previous best practices. We can point to that previous sterling reputation among police departments throughout the country. And we can talk about inadequacies of a policy, argue over direction and vision. But at the end of the day, pouting masked as self-righteousness is still pouting. We as a division, we as a city, need to pick ourselves up and move forward. The first thing we all recognize is that we needed to devise a new way to deal with crowd management. Having our officers standing in riot gear on a line and allowing people to yell at them, call them names, throw objects at them, and then shove a camera in their face and hope to get a reaction was a recipe for disaster. We needed to devise a way that we could better protect businesses and individuals while recognizing that the public no longer felt it was acceptable to clear everyone out as a group. We needed to be smarter, we needed to be quicker, we needed to have the ability to isolate those committing criminal acts and remove them from the crowd. From that blueprint, we were able to form the Police Emergency Response Team. We used PERT during the election cycle and again during the month of January during protests before and after the inauguration. Arrests were down, and the arrests the team made did not involve any uses of force. Conversely, we were able to accomplish the mission without having our officers lined up in front of the protesters. During marches, we were able to form a protective bubble around the protest that protected protesters from uninvolved vehicles and prevented any incidents in which an uninvolved vehicle would be surrounded by protesters. When done correctly, our officers are never within 1 block of the protest group. We developed Reroute and are in the process of rolling out GVI, or Group Violence Initiative. These programs recognize that a very small group of people are responsible for a vast majority of the violent crimes in our city. We, along with our partner agencies, identify those most at risk and offer them the opportunity to connect to services, whether their needs be counseling, trauma care, a job, housing insecurity. The flip side is that those that commit those crimes and that continue to engage in violence will be investigated and prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. During the past 6 months, the Reroute team has taken 33 guns off the street and arrested 46 individuals. In addition, 86 juveniles and young adults have been referred to our partner agencies for services. Of those 86, 49 have agreed and are involved in case management right now. Safe Streets started several years ago as a replacement for the Summer Safety Initiative. SSI, as it was known, involved a heavy dose of hotspot policing and cruisers. If you're not familiar with hotspot policing, basically we look at crime maps. We map where the crimes are at, and then we develop hotspots based on where the highest concentration of crime is happening at. But SSI, as it were, involved a lot of traffic enforcement, a lot of heavy dose of officers and cruisers as a tool for enforcement. The officers that make up Safe Streets, conversely, are typically bicycle officers who use more of a community-based, problem-oriented policing approach. In the past, Zone 5, downtown, has not had a Safe Streets team, but we've asked for one, and it's been budgeted for 2022. So downtown and the Near East Side will have a Safe Streets team in place for next summer. Perhaps one of the best outcomes from 2020 was the renewed relationships with partners in the public and private sector. We quickly realized that we cannot do this alone. Whether it's our officers working with the SID Safety and Security Team or with Heidi Carr, our fantastic zone initiative attorney at the City Attorney's Office, these partnerships have flourished over the last 18 months and will continue to grow and improve. During a weekend last spring, we had 3 shootings downtown over a single weekend. Mark referenced it in his introduction of Heidi. But within weeks, we had all 3 bars shut down. The meetings that Lisa organizes has helped bring stakeholders to the table on countless occasions and have enabled decision makers to make informed decisions with the right people at the table. While we have asked for an increase in the number of cameras downtown for a while, The last 18 months really exposed our blind spots in terms of technology. We are moving forward with a request for additional cameras throughout downtown that will someday feed a real-time crime center that will provide intelligence to the officer and detective on the street to help us make better, smarter decisions. We have also developed some additional programs in the city with the Columbus Division of Fire and other partners, of which we're going to play a video here that it'll be better in their own words than mine.
Years ago, we started to recognize that our first responders weren't equipped with the tools and resources to manage a lot of the individuals and the calls they were responding to. We created a couple of co-responder teams made up of firefighter, paramedics, police officers, and social workers.
The problem with a basic patrol officer, or even like an investigative unit, is they don't necessarily have times to take what we call a problem-oriented approach towards policing, which is that you look at what are some of the root causes, and then take a more holistic or problem-oriented approach to it. The community response teams do exactly that. And then also that expanded relationship we have with the other segments of our city, especially the city government, to go out and take, again, that holistic approach to looking at the problems that precipitate crime and public safety concerns in a community. We all work together.
We act as the Rapid Response Emergency Addiction Crisis Team.
It has a heavy focus on connecting individuals that have an addiction or substance use disorder with opiates to treatment and care.
And then we do have a case manager that'll follow them throughout the journey, because it's a process that takes a lot of time. And we try to stay in their lives a little bit and let them know that we're here, whenever they need us.
I'm with the Specialized Program Assessing Resource Connectivity, or SPARC.
They work with our medically fragile, our homeless individuals, our high utilizers of EMS, and with the same goal of assessing their needs, connecting and linking them with those resources.
So that could be something really simple like somebody's falling down a lot and they might just need a walker to help them ambulate safely. We also can connect them with long-term services that will help support that community living.
I am an officer with the Mobile Crisis Response Unit with the Columbus Division of Police. So it started off as a pilot program, 6-month pilot program. Officers and clinicians rode in a cruiser together and responded to mental health emergencies. And so the pilot program was so successful that they turned it into an actual unit. Each time that we get somebody in the back of a cruiser, take them to the hospital, or the back of an EMS squad, and take them to the hospital instead of going to jail, that's a win. There's been one team that has talked a person off of a bridge, has prevented a suicide that way. I think with the extra training, with the clinician, and the more experience and no time limit, I think that is a good combination to help everybody.
This is Ollie. Ollie is a therapy dog with the police department. We've had the therapy dog unit for 2.5 years now. I can tell you with some experience that when we go to scenes and people pet this dog, they feel better. Unfortunately, we had a drowning, it's probably been about 6 months ago now, and a 9-year-old young lady. We went in, and you could just see the emotion on everyone's face, and we had policemen crying, firefighters crying. It was a really traumatic scene, and Ollie did a tremendous amount of good for those heroes that were there.
What we've tried to build with these teams is an alternative to 911, right? So we do have a lot of interaction with community resources, or community connectors as we refer to them. So as an alternative to making the referral and calling 911, where we send a medic or a police officer who's not equipped to manage that resource, those referrals come, and then we figure out which component of our team is best suited, has the right resources. And ultimately, it frees up our traditional response, the 911 responders, the medics, and the patrol to do what they were trained to do. The more individuals that become community responders, that buys our teams time to get there and provides a better outcome. And that's what I think the future of 911 and emergency response will become.
So Sergeant Brophy, Officer Roberts, Officer Rogers, the three people in that video, are just tremendous people. And they each embody the best about this division, and having them involved in those programs is really a game changer for us, because when you have good people in the right spots, they really can help those programs soar. That video reminded me, we had a homicide detective retired years ago, but as a younger officer, this gentleman, this detective was a legend on the department, Detective McCoskey, and he always used to say, detectives solve crimes, patrol officers solve problems. And that's what we have to get in the mindset of. We are problem solvers. And when you try a thing a certain way and it doesn't work, you have to adapt and try something else. So there is no doubt that as a city, as an organization, we've had a rough 18 months. Despite the negative headlines, the obstacles, and the adversity, I know we will all overcome all of them. I know this because I have a front row seat to the Columbus way, a willingness to collaborate and work together to accomplish great things. I know we will overcome because I have worked with extremely dedicated partners in the private and public sector, like Lisa, like Mark, and countless others that bring an energy and passion to their work to make this city great. And I know we will overcome because I've spent the last 21 years working with the most outstanding human beings around. Women and men filled with the police spirit that display bravery and courage, compassion and empathy, integrity and respect. Respect for our laws, our communities, and the people that make up our city. One of my favorite Hemingway quotes says that the world is a fine place and worth fighting for. On behalf of the Columbus Division of Police, thank you for standing up for the downtown district and the city of Columbus. We are honored to partner with you as we continue to move this city forward. Thank you.
We do have time for questions. We have a microphone over here if you'd like to queue up and ask any questions of the commander.
It was good presentation. One of the first few slides you showed went past really quick. It was some sort of like a policy for police operations. Could you put that back up?
Yes, that actually is from the 1800s. I was referencing in the speech. Sir Robert Peel was one of the founders of the Metropolitan Police Force in London, England. And so I forget the exact year, you'll have to forgive me, but it was 19th century when cities across the world were first forming organized police departments. Peel came up with those principles of policing. And I think what we see is so many of those principles still apply today. Thank you.
Commander, I appreciate your approach to change within the police department and the recognition that these are different times and require a different response. How difficult do you think it's going to be to sort of implement that change across the ranks of the police department?
There are some aspects I would say will be very difficult, and there are some aspects that will not be difficult at all. The great thing about police officers is that they have a tremendous spirit, and they got into this profession to we used to always say when I was a younger officer, it was, I think, Lieutenant Commander Partlow, when he used to always say, fight crime and suppress evil. And that used to be kind of the rallying cry, when you would go out there. And there was a lot of officers younger officers that get on that they want to go out there and fight crime and suppress evil. And a lot of times we have to hold them back and, kind of teach them the correct way and the correct policies and how to follow all that and the correct training. I think that there are lots of officers that want to go out there and fight crime and suppress evil. And they want to be good stewards of the city and the communities that they serve. We are going through a change in terms of how we do that. But at the end of the day, it's that spirit that makes somebody run towards the gunfire, that makes somebody run to the emergency. That still is there. So that's the heavy lift. We get the right people on the bus, they're going to go. The details will be worked out.
Good evening, Commander Weir. Thank you for being here tonight. I'm the neighborhood liaison for downtown with the Department of Neighborhoods in the city of Columbus. I was fortunate to meet Chief Bryant at a community event, and I let her know that I both work downtown and live downtown. And she mentioned something about the reserves and building back the reserves. That's something I don't know a lot about. Could you shine any light on that topic?
Yes, and I thought about it. Ended up on the cutting room floor for the speech.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. Only because it's still in the proposal phase and nothing concrete has been approved. But one of the first things that Chief Bryant talked about when we were in a meeting with the CID when they first came to Columbus, I'd say it was probably July-ish. They'd been in town for about a month, and we were talking, and she talked about reserves and auxiliary officers, and we had a reserve program that had been in place for years. It certainly was in place when I got here in '99, and it had been in place for the majority of my career. There were some reasons why it got disbanded, mostly to do with ongoing training. There was an incident in a different part of the country, but that made national news with I think a special deputy or a reserve deputy in a different jurisdiction, and it came out that that deputy had not been, going through ongoing training. Advanced training is what we call it in Columbus. I think there was some concern that the reserves we had in place at the time had not been completing ongoing training. So it got shut down for a bit, and I think now Chief Bryant's looking at it and talking to some people about how can we get this program back in place, because honestly, having a reserve unit would be a force multiplier. It would be something that would really kind of take the load off us a little bit. It would help, retired officers, people that, like policing, have a spirit for service, but don't necessarily want to do it as their full-time job. They would be able to do that. In terms of specifics, I don't have a timetable for you, but she specifically talked about the use of a reserve or auxiliary force downtown as almost like maybe a go-between between the ambassadors and officers that are on duty responding to the calls for service. So I think, like I said, 2022, hopefully maybe we get some forward movement on that.
Any other questions?
Hi, Commander Weir. Thank you very much for your leadership in these times. I'm just curious about you on a personal level, what you see as the greatest successes that have come out of the changes of the last couple of years, and perhaps what you see, again, as the biggest learning opportunities.
I think, so from my perspective, it's that partnership. Now, I may not be the representative of the entire division on this. I worked, 13 of my first 20 years were on third shift, 10P to 6A, 11P to 7A. So I didn't get much exposure during that time frame to working with partner agencies because most people don't work at night. I will say that getting promoted in 2020 and then kind of being, baptism by fire, for lack of a better term, I think that I really have leaned on, partners with the CID, the Short North Alliance, the City Attorney's Office, some of the community groups on the East Side. I really, I see the value in that, and to me, that's a new thing. I'm sure there are people with division and different capacities that have been doing that all along. But like I said, from my perspective, the relationships built with outside agencies, whether they're city agencies that work outside of law enforcement, or whether they're private or public partnerships, have really been great. And I think that, going forward, you'll have more blended programs like that. I think the Division of Fire had a couple, their talk about some of the programs that they've done with REACT. They do good work. Obviously, our mobile crisis response team does great work. I heard a stat the other day that 3% of their encounters with people in mental health crisis result in an arrest, and that's a pretty good number. 3 out of every 100, are, other than that, if most of them are going to the hospital or getting connected to services, I'd say that's a win. Just like Officer, Robert said. At the end of the day, though, all those good programs and all that stuff, that's great, and that'll help us accomplish our goals and make us a better city. We still need our officers that are in uniform, our detectives that are investigating crimes. We still need them to be good at their jobs, and that'll take us to the next level. Thank you.
Good evening. How you doing?
I'm good, sir. How are you?
Question for you. And I ask questions that some people don't like to ask, so just bear with me. I'm a black man, okay? And as you were showing the video with Floyd, around the world, Columbus, everywhere, black people, no disrespect to no other ethnic backgrounds here, but what are you guys doing or trying to have in place that when you encounter with black people in urban areas, what are you guys doing or working on to not have the situations like being shot down like a dog in the street or killed? Because again, no disrespect, I'm not saying you doing it or your team, but it's happening only to black people. And I kind of turned my head when I seen that video with George Floyd, because I keep hearing we coming together, we doing this, and I appreciate it, but for black people are still being treated unfair by police around the world. So are you guys working on anything to try to minimize that?
Yeah. So
if that makes sense.
Yep. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. I would say that even starting under Chief Jacobs, we started implicit bias training. That happens consistently. I think every other year. It may be yearly, depending on, but it's in-service training that officers go to. There's that. I think that we have to do a better job of attracting people of color to the ranks. We have to do a better job of attracting women to the ranks. And I think that there's ongoing efforts to do that. Now, that's easier said than done. It's easy to say, you know what, we need more people of color to be part of the division of police. And it's how do we get there, you know? So I think that we have tried several different things over the past 20 years, and in a continual effort to do so. I think that the effort there is there. I think that the determination is there. I think there's a couple different factors in play, a couple things that Chief Bryant and Chief Potts have talked about that I think will help with that. So I think that is another aspect that helps. And at the end of the day, we have to tear down those walls, that tension, right? The past 18 months, we have been in a pressure cooker. We, as in the city, the nation, anything in an urban environment has been that pressure cooker of, you know, fear, threats, the fear of the unknown. And a lot of times we have to just break it down to talking one-on-one. And when you talk one-on-one, you see that we are more alike than we're not. And I think that officers on the street see that too. And I think that once we can get past that initial, that's an officer in uniform, that's a person that may, on a traffic stop that I think might have a gun. Once we get past all that, that's where real progress can be made. And it's not going to happen overnight. It didn't start overnight. It didn't happen overnight. It's not going to get fixed overnight. But we at the Division of Police are committed to getting to a better place with that.
Anyone else? Okay. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you again, Commander. I do have a bit of optimism with all of this. Lisa and I have been in several meetings with Chief Bryant. We're encouraged by some of the programs, and I think, I have some optimism we're going to move forward on all this, but we'll of course have to wait and see. But again, thank you for everyone for coming. That concludes the meeting and the annual meeting for this year. Be sure to take the centerpiece if you'd like to take that home with you. And thank you again, Juan and the Sonesta staff, for your help, and have a good evening.